Chapter 14. There's something wrong, Jovani said when he woke inside a cave with Lycell standing over him. You damn right. I would have made better time if I didn't ask you to come with me. Not that I don't appreciate what you've done so far, but it's time I go it alone. I've wasted too much time because of your interminable need to sleep during the day. How the fuck do you vampires live so long? Because we are the night. The night is our cover, and we hunt when you're sleeping sound in your beds. An icy weakening flash ran down Lycell's back, not because of fear for himself, he had none, but for his wife and the mother of Justin. He knew Jovani would make his threat come true if he made a move to bring harm to Hannah. And don't forget your part. You had to hunt for fresh meat, Jovani said, sitting up. You may have forgotten that you benefited from that as well, Lycell said, his eyes shining from the darkness of the cave. This is not working out. My son is out there, maybe he's dead or bleeding to death, and I have to keep watch over you at night to keep the bears or wolves from entering the cave and killing you. Something is wrong with this picture, Lycell said, pacing around the cave like a wild animal ready to strike. Something has happened to Hannah. I feel it. Your son is fine. All you need to do is follow that stream around, and you should find him. But I have to leave now. And before Lycell could turn to say something to Jovani, he had disappeared. It had been as Jovani had said. Lycell sprinted across the stream to come to a trailer in a clearing with the backdrop of a forest surrounding it. He heard Justin's voice and what he knew to be that of a werewolf. He didn't know the werewolf. From his knowledge, that werewolf was probably from a pack who had been hunted to extinction, and may have been the last of his kind, until he approached and discovered there were several pups. Lycell was able to walk up to the pups as they watched the gray werewolf's encounter with Justin. He stood behind the young werewolves and watched his son take the experienced werewolf and bring him down. He was proud to see that Justin had learned how to handle himself in a fight. Maybe he was listening after all. When the combat was over, and when the young werewolves turned, they came across Lycell. They cowered at the sight of an alpha, and cowered low. Lycell told them they had nothing to fear, and he would take them back to his ranch and teach them the ways of a werewolf. And then he met Justin and his mate, who will soon become Justin's wife. When Jovani left Lycell, he disappeared into the darkness and arrived in New York in time to beat the sunlight. He knew instinctively that Hannah was no longer at the Samses' cabin, but he did know who would know of her whereabouts. After sleeping, he woke to his manservant Connor standing over him. I didn't know you had returned. I've been trying to get in touch with you, but... What is it? Jovani questioned, sitting up. I will be busy, and I can't be bothered with anything. You'll have to see this detective who has been coming around asking questions about you. It seems the female detective was in a terrible accident, and from the papers, the police think it's no accident. He handed Jovani his robe and helped him dress. The detective said he would be back tonight because I said that was the only time you could speak to him. Does he know I'll be here? I told him you were out of the country on your private jet, but he said he checked, and there's nothing that shows you left the country or returned. After following Jovani up to the first floor, Connor said, and then there's Sasha. Jovani turned, his blue eyes glowing with revulsion and restraint. His smooth forehead furrowing. He dropped down on the long sofa and peered out into the night sky at the lighted high-rises and glowing signs and lights from cars below. Where is Sasha? Why, here, my husband. He turned to see Sasha standing in a white gown. I was never your husband, and you were never a wife, Jovani said, glaring at her. You are an abomination standing there in white. Where is the blood that covered your white gown the night I took you to bed with me? You still can't forget that. She had loved you before me. I couldn't bear to know that someone had lain with you before me, so I killed her and placed her near us as you fucked me. You didn't notice her body. Maybe you had forgotten her face, but I never did. You may have fed on it as you were fucking me. I think you did when I asked you to turn me. You were so enthralled with me that you didn't notice. You were such a sex-starved vampire. You never wanted to turn me, but I begged you, and you were so weak. You gave me my wish, and here I am to share all of eternity with you. Jovani cringed at the thought. He flexed his fists. He has forgotten he had loved such an evil woman. He never did forget that night. Why are you here, Sasha? His voice dejected and worried at her sight. Worried that she had done something to Hannah before he had a chance to stop her. Do you need to ask? I'm here to face you and tell you that I'm all that you have or ever will have. Do not try to replace me. I won't tolerate it. And I will kill that little human if you don't remember that you have only one wife. She sauntered over to Jovani, placed her hands on his face, looked into his cold blue eyes and slid a kiss across his lips. He didn't move. He didn't react. He watched her with scorn, as if she was part of the scenery. A burnt house with only the chimney left standing. A house that was never slept in, and one not remembered as being a home. If you do anything to harm Hannah, you will never see another night. The only night you'll see is me. I will look into your black eyes and black heart, and I will be your last night on this earth. She turned away from Jovani calmly without showing fear, but she shuddered inside, because she enjoyed being an immortal. It was all she hoped for, besides being the wife of a powerful vampire. Then she boldly turned to him. I could say the same of you. But I won't. But I will say that if you ever plan on seeing that young woman again, Hannah, I think her name is. Before she could complete her sentence, Jovani had swirled around, and his large hands encircled her neck. Where is she? He whispered with his face inches away from Sasha's. Your love and desire for her have clouded your senses. You once felt like that for me. She gazed into his eyes, hoping to ignite a passion that would lead him to bed. He burned with the instincts and passion to kill, and Sasha knew that murderous side of him so well. She enjoyed that part of him and didn't want this changed. She knew who had overtaken him and caused him to turn away from her. Smiling into his fatal eyes, she said, but I was able to use it against you, and I was able to use that against you one more time. I can keep her from you for a lifetime since you didn't see fit to change her. Jovani's hands tightened against her pale white skin. You want to have children with her, am I right? That was your silly notion when you met me and fell in love with me. You deceived me because you never wanted children. My Hannah wants to have my babies. Your vampire babies, that's a laugh. And she stood there defying Jovani. She didn't have his strength to ward off him if he chose to kill her. She didn't have the years of experience to know how to kill a young, strong, cunning immortal such as Jovani, but she did have Hannah. She met his eyes knowing he would need to rid himself of her when she slept. Not now. So she took her chance and defied him. She said in a hoarse voice, I can keep her from you until she's old and gray. Kill me, and it will take a lifetime to find her. Her lifetime, she said, forcing out a smile. And I will. Give her up, and when I think you've come back to me, then I'll let her go. I can wait. Jovani's hands dropped from Sasha's throat. He closed his eyes. How do I know you have her? Here's a picture of her. And she reached inside her gown and dropped the picture on the table near where Jovani stood. Chapter 15. Hannah turned over on the sparse cot setting against a cold, barren wall. The small room chilly and sterile, painted in white perhaps to bring more light into the cell. At first she was disturbed by the lack of heat, but soon came to embrace the cold. It felt like Jovani's body. It reminded her of sleeping on Jovani's chest in the cellar of the Samses cabin. She had little to occupy her mind now, but the thought of getting home and the thought of Jovani and how much she loved him had sustained her each day into the night. She wished she hadn't loved him. She wished she had loved someone else, but you don't choose who you fall in love with. She resigned herself to that fact of nature and that thought. When her eyes crept open, she didn't know how long she had been sleeping. The days interwove into another and another, until she didn't know the time or the season. She saw the sun rise and set, and then saw a full moon. A month had passed and she noticed one thing: she had missed her period. She would put that out of her mind for now. She didn't want to think about something that would keep her awake at night, staring up at the ceiling, wishing for Jovani to find her. For someone to take her from this horrible place. Worrying about being pregnant would come later, if there ever were a later for her, because Hannah had other things to worry about. She put it out of her mind because she couldn't handle the thought of being a mother to a vampire child, without the father around to guide her. What did a half-vampire child and half-human child eat? Did they sleep all day and then wake at night? But wasn't that what a human child did? "Stop it," she said. "Now you're talking to yourself." She turned over in a huff and folded her arms around her. "I'm not going to think about this stupid stuff until I'm out of here." And so she put it out of her mind because she couldn't live with the thought each day that she may give birth to Jovani's baby. And it was because of Jovani that she's in this mess. So Hannah lay and slept and woke and ate occasionally when they brought food, and she would wait for Jovani to find her. She did nothing but wait. She waited to hear from Lisa, but Lisa didn't show. Maybe she disappeared like all the others, Hannah thought. Wouldn't she at least come before they took her away? Or maybe she had planned on coming to see her, but they came without warning. That thought was for a friend, but maybe they planted her inside with her to make Hannah think she had a friend, and to pick her brain. Afraid, and knowing she had little to do but wait for food and water, she rose from her bed and stood at the wall and tried to push it, but it wouldn't budge. How did she do this? She thought. Hannah tried pushing and pulling the wall one more time. Then she used one palm, and it moved it, and with the heel of her hand, it slid to her right just enough for her to angle through the opening. Feeling great because she didn't just sit there feeling sorry for herself. She tried to do something to change the outcome of her life. "Where's Lisa?" she murmured, easing along the cold, dark wooden walls. It was a month ago since she saw Lisa, and she waited to hear from her, but Lisa never came, and Hannah never bothered thinking she may have been a prisoner like her, but instead put there to confuse her and give her hope that maybe she could get out. Inching along against the walls in the darkness, Hannah had become preoccupied with her thoughts. Whoever brought her food came when she had fallen asleep. They brought food and water on a tray. A bowl of water, like they would give a dog to lap up. Pushing it under the metal door when she had been so hungry and thirsty. She took it not caring, only caring to feed herself and her baby. Hannah's thoughts as she lay in the darkness of the room fell on the young caretaker from the Sams's cabin, and how he had tried to help her, and she thought of Justin. Maybe something terrible had happened to him too, because he also tried to help her. But then her thoughts settled back on Jovani. He had been the real reason so much had happened to her, and the people she loved or cared about. How many more would suffer because a vampire declared her as his concubine? Her eyes flickered, her mind determined. She had to save herself and her baby, and it was her loved ones who compelled her to try to escape. Hannah stopped in front of a wall when she heard low moaning. Placing her ear to the wall, she figured it was Lisa. Touching the wall, it slid back so easy that Hannah thought about why she hadn't done this earlier. Through the half-open sliding door, she edged along the wall with her hands splayed in front of her. She wished for dim light, but there was complete darkness in the narrow corridor leading to another room. She inched along and then she whispered, "Lisa, Lisa." But no answer. Passing a small cell with a toilet, basin and bed, she continued down the corridor, murmuring Lisa's name. Hearing a soft moan as if someone was hurt, she continued looking for her, but never finding her. She thought of giving up and going back to her cell when she heard the clatter of chains scraping on the cement floor. "Lisa," she whispered loudly. Over here, she said, her voice scarcely audible. Over here. Hannah pushed the wall, and it opened up like a small door. Sitting on a chair with her ankles in chains, looking around in the dim light, she turned slightly and caught sight of Hannah. The constant walking to the toilet had bruised her small ankles, and they appeared to have sores and festers where the ankle straps had torn into her flesh. Hannah. It's good to see you. I wondered how long it would take before you came looking for me, Lisa said, her head flopped to the side. I took too long. I was afraid that you were one of them. Now I realize that you're a prisoner like me. What can I do to help you? Hannah hugged Lisa, and she placed her small arms around Hannah, and she felt a tear fall from Lisa's face onto her own. You have to get the keys. They're in the cellar here, in a wooden desk under the stairs, Lisa said to her as she held tightly on to Hannah's hand. Just follow the corridor around, and it will take you where there's a wall. Push the wall like you just did here, and it will open. How is it that no one knows these walls exist? Are they just toying with us? Letting us walk around here knowing that nothing can come of it? You have to be in a cell to know how it works. The witches are gone. They've been summoned to New York. It seems a vampire summoned them. They're controlled by a very rich and very powerful vampire. Hannah didn't dare tell her she knew who those vampires were, and that she was pregnant for the male. The thought sickened Hannah, and she rushed to the commode and bent and regurgitated into the bowl. What's wrong, Hannah? I think I'm pregnant. More reason to get the hell out of this place. Get the keys and then we can leave. I guess I had run away too many times and I think it's my time when they come back. They haven't brought any new girls here, and I'm going to be part of their ritual, she said, her voice shaky not from fright but from lack of food to eat. Did you save any food? Hannah said, looking up from the bowl. Not this time, Lisa said. Now go. The sooner we get out of this place, the sooner we can eat.